Welcome everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. My name is Nicholas Reid from Reid Corporate, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this Resources Rising Stars investor webinar with Sky Metals, ASX ticker SKY. Well, tin's been in the news again recently, with the price of this often forgotten technology metal recently hitting an eight-month high after one of the world's bigger producers in the Democratic Republic of Congo halted production amidst rebel unrest. The events once again highlight the extremely fragile nature of the supply chain for tin and the compelling market outlook. Investors looking for leveraged exposure to this thematic need look no further than Sky Metals, which is developing the Tallebung Tin Project in western New South Wales. There's plenty happening at Sky. A bulk sampling program was completed recently ahead of a key metallurgical testwork program. Assays are pending from recent diamond drilling, and a major new multi-rig RC drill program is set to begin very shortly. To tell us about all this activity, we're delighted to have Sky Metals Managing Director, Ollie Davies, join us from Sydney to bring us up to speed with the Sky Metals story. Before I hand over to Ollie, just a reminder that we love to make these sessions as interactive as possible, so please use the Q&A tab on your webinar browser. It's on the right-hand side of the screen, and send in any questions while Ollie is presenting, and I'll make sure that we cover off on them once he's finished. Ollie, always great to see you. Thanks for joining us today, and over to you to tell us what's happening at Sky.
Thanks, Nicholas. Great introduction. I think you've really well summed up what we're up to, and look forward to fleshing that out now with a quick presentation and then moving to some questions afterwards. So as Nick mentioned, we're developing the Tallebung Tin Project. It's the site of a big historic tin field, and you can see a picture of it there on that first slide. And now exploring it with modern technology, it's ideally matched for modern technology advantage. Quick disclaimer. To look at the Sky Metals board, we have Norm Seckold as chair, Richard Hill and Remus Caritis, non-executive directors, and myself as managing director. Norm's obviously been involved in setting up a lot of companies and taking them from exploration through to development. And Richard and Remus most recently, they were founding directors at Aurelia, which they took that company from an exploration company right through into a producing precious and base metal company. And the Hero mine that they developed is actually one of the closest mines to Tallebung. So they're really an ideal pair to have on the board here to help us through this process. And myself being involved with Alkane and Evolution Mining in New South Wales, amongst others, and some successful exploration with those groups. Important to note as well, we've got some good consultants on board who are helping us through all of these stages of developing this project and getting it into production as quickly as possible. As Nick touched on, tin is an incredibly and increasingly important technology metal. Its primary use is as solder to hold all electronics together, but we're seeing some big increases in demand with modern technologies. There's about 400 grams of tin that's used in an internal combustion car. In an EV, you've got 1.2 kilograms. So there's a huge increase in the amount of tin used in an EV compared to an internal combustion car. So we're seeing an increase in demand there, as well as it's used in semiconductors, in circuit boards, important for AI, and also looking at the solar space as well in particular. Already tin's used as solar ribbon, which is the outside of solar panels, but now we're seeing with new technology, there's a new cell that's going over the top of solar panels to increase efficiency, and tin is vital in that now. So we're seeing an increase in uses, and with that, we're seeing an increase in demand and a corresponding increase in price. There's the 2024 price on that graph there from Macquarie, but obviously with the recent news, tin is now approaching 35,000 US. I think today it was trading almost close to 36,000 US. So it's well and truly about 3 times the price of copper and seems to be maintaining those levels strongly. And that's been encouraged by its very fragile supply characteristics, which have been demonstrated most recently with the DRC shutting one of the mines there with ongoing rebel activity. That took about 6% of the world's tin supply off, and we've seen a strong increase in the tin price corresponding to that. So also we're seeing Indonesia, previously the second largest producer of tin, now seeing a decrease in their production. And all of this is showing us that tin is a very fragile supply market. There's limited ethical and reliable sources out there for tin, very few investment opportunities on the ASX, and Sky Metals is looking like positioning itself as one of the leading tin companies. The Tallebung Tin Project is our flagship project. As I mentioned, it's a big historic tin field, which means we're really just getting this back into production. Production first started here when tin was discovered in the 1890s, mined right up until the 1980s. And that's what's left, what you can see in that aerial photograph of all of the old workings, the old tailings dam on the right. But importantly for us, we're looking at a project that has a lot of shortcuts for us to get it back into production. We've got power lines to site. There's an old water corridor down the Lachlan River. There's also excellent road access. And importantly, this is an area with no competing land uses. It's an abandoned mine site as far as the New South Wales government is concerned, and they've communicated to us. It would be great if this could get back into production, because it means that this site can be managed responsibly. The key advantages that we have at Tallebung is that we're looking at a deposit that starts at surface. We're looking at hard rock tin veins that we can see in the bottom of the old open pits and things. So we're looking at a very shallow, dipping, low strip ratio open pit deposit, which means we have very low cost mining potential. And every new drill hole, we're finding more extensions to this deposit as well. A very important part of this project is that ore sorting is ideally suited to this. Ore sorting in tin is a ubiquitous technology. And at Tallebung, it's absolutely the ideal deposit. And we're seeing a big upgrade in the head grade before doing downstream processing, and importantly, removing a lot of the mass that we're mining, which means that at least 80% of the mined mass is getting removed with ore sorting, which means that the downstream plant that we would have to pay a lot of capex on, millions and millions of dollars, that's 20% of the size it would be otherwise, because it only needs to process 20% of what we're mining. It also means that we're using 80% less power, 80% less water. It's very important environmentally. We've got a much smaller tailings dam because we're not wetting as much material. So all of it means that it really significantly reduces the cost and propels Tallebung to be a terrific potential tin producer. Once we do take it past ore sorting to processing it into a tin concentrate, it's a very simple gravity process, very cheap, low cost. And that produces a very desirable tin concentrate, which we see extremely high payabilities on and increasing as the world gets more and more in need for high quality tin concentrates. Recently, around the margins of the existing resource, we are finding high grade discoveries that are extending that area that the resource defines. Most recently, we drilled in the south. We got 11 meters at over 1% tin. Just to put that into a context for everyone else who might not be familiar with tin, 3% copper, it's about equivalent to about 0.8% tin. So 1% is probably 3.5% copper, but that doesn't quite do it justice, because as we mentioned, we have ore sorting and then very low cost gravity processing. So unlike copper, we don't need to do flotation. So it's much cheaper to process. So we're looking at very high grades here, very cheap to process. Good amounts of silver there and good amounts of tungsten as well. So an interesting extension beyond the extents of the current resource. And on top of that, we've got some extensions to the east that we've recently drilled, and a northeast extension that's also showing another shoulder of the deposit opening up. As it is, we don't know where the margins of this deposit is. Where we've estimated a resource for already, we have got 15.6 million tonnes at 0.15% tin. And that very quickly is upgraded in our ore sorting from 0.15% to over 0.7% tin, which again is equivalent to quite a high grade product that we're then spending money on to put into a tin concentrate. And importantly, none of these high grade extensions that we've just been discussing have been included in that existing resource. So We will be looking at upgrading that resource on the back of our upcoming drilling program, and it's likely that that resource will continue to grow and look better and better for us to potentially mine it. Just to quickly focus on the ore sorting and why it works so well. Ore sorting, as I mentioned, is ubiquitous in tin, but we really have a ideally suited deposit, largely down to the fact that we have very large cassiterite crystals that host the tin, and these are very dense. They have a density about 3 times the rest of the rock, and that means that the ore sorter uses X-rays to see the dense bits, just like X-rays, medical X-rays see your bones in your arm. This sees those dense cassiterite grains. The rocks that have those dense cassiterite grains are fired off with air jets, and everything else is dropped into a reject bucket. Just from a very conservative ore sorting, high recovery run, that's where we see a 5 times increase in grade on average across the entire deposit, and getting rid of over 80% of the mass that we mine before processing. And we're seeing in excess of 98% recovery of tin. So we're effectively losing no tin in that process while getting rid of huge amounts of mass and upgrading our ore. But then most recently, we've done some aggressive ore sorting where we've said, really don't worry about the small bits of tin that you can see, just target those larger chunks. And in that, we see a 44 times grade increase. We're getting rid of 98% of the mass, which means we would only need to put 2% of the mass into a downstream plant. But we do see a reduction in tin recovery. So we're only recovering about 20 to 15% of the tin, losing about 15 to 20% of the tin. So there is a trade-off there, and further work will work to optimize that. Just to look at what those X-rays see in the TOMRA. On the left-hand side, there is an unclassified image. It looks quite a lot like the X-ray you might get from your doctor. And then on the right-hand side is how the ore sorter classifies those grains. And then you can see the blue-black ones are the ones with tin in them. They're the grains that get fired off. But all of those grains that are red, they don't have any tin in them, and they can be discarded as waste at this point. And it's just that simple X-ray and air jet process that removes the waste from our ore that we mine and then reduces all of those downstream costs, our OPEX, our CAPEX for a potential project. In addition, we've found some higher grade zones in this deposit that are close to surface, so they're ideal for starter pits. The idea of those is to obviously mine the higher grade areas first, pay back that CAPEX in months rather than years, and then get straight on to free cash flow. So those areas we seem to be finding more of those, particularly with that extension that we've just discovered to the south. And they're going to be vital for improving the potential project economics here. Nicholas mentioned, but we've also taken 4 bulk samples. So these have been taken from areas across the entire deposit. We've taken 15 to 20 tonnes of material from 4 sites. They've been crushed in Condobolin and taken down to TOMRA ore sorting in Sydney. They're running some ore sorting test work now as we speak. And those are looking at how we optimize that result that we saw before. Where do we want to reject waste? How much do we want to reject? And optimizing our ore sorting process. We'll then send those on to eventually ALS Burnie, who will run the accepted ore sorter product through a gravity plant to make a tin concentrate, which we can then use for downstream marketing. Quite important to market what we think is going to be a quality concentrate to the downstream smelters as well, to get indicative payabilities and things on our product that we'll be producing. So the bulk sampling is really a great example of how fortunate we are to have a deposit that comes to surface. It means it's really cheap for us to dig up some portions of that, send it down and optimize that metallurgical flow sheet, produce some tin for downstream marketing, and also to increase the confidence in our resource, because we are literally starting to, in a very, very small scale, we're starting to mine it. So that's a terrific process. And additionally, this is some drone footage here panning across the old Tallebung tin field. As Nicholas mentioned, we're planning a large-scale multi-rig drill out. That's going to start imminently when approvals come through from the New South Wales Resource Regulator. We're expecting those in the next week or two. Then on the back of that drilling program, should take a month or so, and it'll take a month or so for us to get all of the results back for the drilling program. On the back of that, we'll quickly upgrade that resource estimate and then put that into our mining scoping studies. And by mid this year, we are anticipating to have mining scoping studies and maybe up to feasibility level as well, out to talk about the potential project economics that we have at Tallebung. So we've got an exciting few months ahead of us to quickly accelerate this project and get it technically where it needs to be. In addition to those technical works of drilling out the deposit and looking at our metallurgy, we have also, with the conviction we have on what a project we think we have at Tallebung, we have been pursuing environmental studies. Some of these are long lead time items that we can get ticked off now, and it puts us well ahead of really anyone else in terms of getting a project into production. So we've got groundwater monitoring bores installed. You need 2 years worth of data for those to start applying for EISs and things for your mining lease. So we've got 18 months of the 2 years done already. We're doing geochemical characterization work to talk about how we manage our waste from the project. We've got a weather station installed. There's a photo of that there. That weather station needs a year's worth of data to be produced so we can compare it to local weather readings. Then we've also done background biodiversity studies, which have all gone well. And now we're looking on the back of these mining studies coming out. We'll know exactly where our pit goes, where our waste dumps go, those sorts of things. And then we can very quickly step into detailed environmental work and quickly get this project to a point where we can start applying for our approvals and getting those approvals through. So just how that kind of looks like in a timeline. We've got a bulk tonnage MRE. The metallurgical test work is very well advanced, and we're optimizing that now with bulk sampling. But we'll be moving on to the infill and expansion of our current MRE, and also moving into our background environmental studies are, as you can see, well advanced. All of those will culminate in our mining studies and then push through into more advanced work to improve those mining studies while we can currently work through approvals process to get the mine up and running. So it's an exciting period for us where we're quickly accelerating this project and building on the work that we've completed already. So that's all I have for the presentation today, but thank you very much for your time to hear that, and hopefully there's some questions.
Thanks very much, Ollie. That's a great presentation, and it's an exciting story, as we know. I just wanted to jump in and just a reminder to anyone that is tuned in, please use that Q&A tab. I see there's a few questions there already. Just the first one, we've talked about mining studies in Q2 of this year. Given the amount of work that's clearly been done already on this project and the relatively advanced nature of the met test work, what level will that first study be? Is it a scoping study, or is it really a bit more advanced than that?
It's a really good question. Internally, we're already working on these studies, but it really depends on where our resource gets to with this next round of drilling, to give us how much resource confidence we have. Basically, is really the main factor that will limit any potential study. So certainly our metallurgical work is on the back of this bulk sampling will really be at a bankable feasibility study level. So some aspects of this project are very well advanced, but the drilling is the most expensive bit. So that's the bit that is a little bit lagging at the moment, but we're addressing that with this current program. And yeah, if this program goes well, it could be quite a detailed level of study. It just depends on where we get to with it.
Okay. There's a three-part question here from an investor. So I'll put them all to you. They probably a little tricky to answer, but I think they are very relevant to people following the story. What is the timeline, estimated timeline to first revenue and production? How much will you need to spend before you start generating revenue? And how would you anticipate raising the necessary capital along that journey?
So yeah, they're very good questions. Not sure how much I can speak to about them, but really the timeline looks that if everything goes well and we can get to feasibility studies by halfway through this year, and then from there put into our environmental studies where our main disturbances are going to be and things, and do those detailed environmental studies. They take about 3 to 4 months. And then on the back of that, we would be preparing and submitting an EIS to the government for review. That's basically the longest lead time item for us. So yeah, if about halfway through this year, we're starting those detailed environmental studies, by the end of the year, we should be able to have an EIS prepared to be lodged. So end of this year, early next year, we can be doing that. Best case, that takes about a year to be approved. We would really like, given that the history of this site, and also that there is tungsten involved and this is a critical minerals project, I think it would be a really good opportunity for the New South Wales government to show how serious they are about their critical mineral strategy, and this project seems like one that can be advanced quickly. We would be keen to get that done as soon as possible. Best case, probably about a year, and then from there we basically get the tick to get developing the project. So I guess all told, maybe 2 years we can get this project going.
So it sounds like it's more, the critical path is more around permitting than it is, the project's actually advancing. The project itself is advancing pretty fast.
And yeah, and that's a good point to make too. I mean, this is on the back of us already putting in at least 18 months of those groundwater monitoring bores already installed. So it just shows that it is really vital to get started early on these sorts of things, and we've been fortunate to do that and get ourselves a long way through this sort of journey already to developing the project quickly as we can.
Yep. And the second part of that question, Ollie, sorry, so obviously the studies that will come out mid-year will show us what the indicative capital spend will be, so it'll scope the project and show the economics. Any rough sort of guidance on, what you'll need to sort of take it forward, I guess, from there, over that period in terms of spend and how you'd fund that?
Yeah, I guess the key aspect there is probably that we've got the ore sorters that significantly reduce our plant size. So if initially we were thinking this project would be say $100 million to develop, because we've got those ore sorters, we're looking at getting rid of 80% of that mass. There's some fixed costs around installation or upgrade of power lines and those sorts of things, but maybe you're looking at 20 or 30 million rather than 100 million to get it into production, thanks to the advantage that we have with the ore sorting. And yeah, we think it's more likely to be in the tens of millions range rather than hundreds of millions. So that's another attractive part of this project for us, is that it looks quite capital efficient in that regard. It's quite a simple plant to build, given the gravity processing, and no chemicals required, just water and that. So yeah, there's a few sort of avenues for us. And then in terms of funding this project and how it goes along, look, it really is dependent on how the markets come along in a lot of senses, but we have been well supported so far, and thank you very much to all of our shareholders for that. But hopefully that continues, and yeah, we can hopefully we can fund it ourselves. But there's certainly a lot of companies at the moment that are looking for good tin concentrates. So there's a few avenues for us in that regard as well. And yeah, we're quite fortunate to have a project that is moving quickly. So yeah, a few things for us, a few challenges for us ahead, but yeah, I think we're well equipped to face them.
Yep. And well within the company's funding ability, given your register, given you've got norm there, it's given your market cap well within reach.
Absolutely, and I will obviously be leaning heavily on the rest of the board there. They've got really good experience in getting these projects funded and built and developed. Yeah.
It's a good segue into the next question, which is, are you receiving interest from potential offtake partners at this stage? How's that engagement going, or is that something that you'd expect to pursue a little later following the initial studies?
Already we've been contacted by a few groups, so it's already building some interest, and I think given the scarcity of tin at the moment, there are groups that are looking at, they're starting to buy lower grade tin concentrates in particular, and we would be looking at making a high quality, higher grade tin concentrate, which is important for blending. So what we're producing is quite a desirable product. And I think there'll be some groups very interested in getting their hands on that. And what will really propel us quickly through that process will be getting some sample from this bulk sampling, some concentrate sample that we can then aid us in marketing downstream as well.
Excellent. There's another question here. Given we're seeing quite a lot of geopolitical issues globally right now, what's your view on the impact of what's happening in the DRC and Myanmar? You touched on both of those. Are there any longer term implications from what's currently happening in those countries with respect to tin?
Yeah, I think it looks like Myanmar is getting a few of the mines back online maybe later in the year. That's going to be very important for China to get some more concentrate there. China was looking to other sources quite heavily. They've been in some trouble with that. But I think the other thing that's pushing is that we've got quite a few fragile supply lines for tin, but we're looking at increasing demand as well. So not only are we struggling to service the current demand, but demand is forecast to continue to grow, and that shortfall in servicing the tin market is going to continue to grow. So I think at the moment the world is going to be very receptive to more tin coming in, and particularly tin out of Australia.
Excellent. That's great, Ollie. I might just one final one to sort of close things out, because there's a lot happening in the next few months. So I thought maybe if you could just map it out for us. I know you're taking a bunch of people out to Tomra in Sydney tomorrow to see what's happening there. There's going to be met work. There's going to be assays from drilling, RC, diamond. Will you update the resource before the studies come out? Can you just sort of map it out for us? Just what to look for, I suppose, in the next weeks, and how we sort of piece it into the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yep. So with that sample being sorted now, we do have some people headed out to Tomra to have a look at the ore sorter in action, and get a demo from the guys at Tomra. They're quite keen on our ore, and they quite enjoy sorting it because it's quite straightforward. But we'll have a visit out there. Those samples will be sorted over the next week or two from Tomra, and then they'll go on to further met work. So we'll have ongoing results coming out from that bulk sampling metallurgical optimization program over the next month or two as we get towards actually producing the tin concentrate. And then concurrently, we'll have our RC program kicking off shortly. And we're coinciding with that, we're planning on getting some results from our latest diamond drilling program imminently. They'll be coming through hopefully next week. So we'll be looking at some results from the diamond drilling program coming back, where we saw some really, really good visual mineralization. So we're looking forward to those results coming in. And then we'll have RC results coming as that program continues. Then we'll be combining those into an updated resource, probably around June. And then on the back of that, we'll quickly be turning around into releasing our mining studies. So we think that, there's going to be quite a lot of news flow. It's going to be a very busy time for the Sky team in particular, delivering all of that news flow over the next 3 or 4 months. Yeah.
So the study will be kind of late Q2, early Q3, sort of late June, July type of timing.
Yeah, and it'll be the culmination of the concurrent bulk sampling program that we're doing with the drilling and resource upgrades, and sort of fleshing out some of these exciting high grade discoveries that we're making on the margins of the known resource.
Yep, and that'll be the first picture of this project in terms of what it does in terms of dollars and cents as well, which will be a big milestone, won't it?
Yeah, I think it'll be a really good opportunity to put forward all of the operational advantages that we have in the project that make what we think is mining a lower grade deposit really attractive.
Fantastic. Look, that's really great. We won't take up more of people's time, but it's probably good to mention that a recording of this webinar will be released later today. And also there's plenty of touch points for Sky over the coming months. Sky is presenting at the RRS Gather Round Conference in Adelaide on April the 10th, and then the RIU Resources Roundup in Sydney, that's early May, I believe, Ollie.
Yep, that's right, yeah.
So lots of touch points for investors, and of course all of the milestones will be communicated through the ASX and the Investor Hub service. So Ollie, thanks very much for joining us. It was great to have you on, and looks like this is going to be a pretty pivotal few months ahead for Sky.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nicholas, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll look forward to keeping you posted on the Sky Metal story. Have a great day.